Welcome back to Against My Better Judgment, the podcast where two friends,
I'm Tamara Golden.
and I'm Danielle Whiteside, tell the truth, share the lessons, and laugh about the moments that we knew better, but did it anyway. Each week we share real stories about our lives, about the times that life surprised us, stretched us, or just straight up humbled us, and the lessons that we learned along the way.
And this season, we're titling them How We Do Ships. Mm-hmm. And today we're going to talk about how we do leadership.
Yeah. But before we dive in, how was your week?
It was a great week, Danielle. My parents came to town. The Galdens came to town.
Yes.
So as you know, that was so much fun. We hung out, and Dad got obsessed. I'd started a puzzle, and Dad got obsessed on my puzzle. So when he got up, they literally just left. So when he got up this morning, I had cleared the puzzle away because you and I were meeting today, and he had the nerve to say, "Where's my puzzle?" I said, where's what? He's like, "Where's my puzzle?" I was like, "No, see, that's the problem here. You're a minosaur, Dad. It is not mine. It's my puzzle. It's not even ours." But in any event, it was a good week all in all.
And I was so happy when I walked in that they were still here. They were waiting for me.
They weren't leaving.
Yes.
I mean, I was like, Danielle's coming she's running a little late. They were gonna poke around, and Mom got on we set up her Facebook account. I mean, they started dragging. They were not leaving until you popped up.
I was so glad I got to see them, hug them. My week has been good. It was pretty steady. And I am preparing to leave later this coming week to go back to school for the weekend. So I've had a couple of assignments to work on, and just balancing it all. It's always, I always feel like I'm doing this, but I was thinking at some point this week about the fact that one of my, I guess, tacit or silent mantras is like no drop balls. Like will not drop a ball. And so sometimes though, which I will cover in my Against My Better Judgment segment, sometimes you have to realize when you need to let a ball drop. And so we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Or are all the balls glass, or some of them plastic, or some of them bouncy,
I guess
don't drop the glass ones.
No, we're not dropping any glass balls, but there's one that needs to be dropped off. So anyway, but we're talking right now about leadership. So how do you do leadership, Tamara?
Yeah, leadership is one of those interesting topics. Everybody is an expert and nobody knows. I mean, there's so many books about leadership. So many. But I'll talk about leadership in two different worlds, if you will. I think about leadership in general when we're talking about lead, and we add that ship to it. Again, that's what moves people forward. And again, that is what we call the effort. So whenever you hear the ship at the end of something, it has to move you forward, and there has to be some sort of effort. I think it ties along with, I'll just hit this one real quick, when we were talking about kinship, and we were talking about the matriarch piece. Mm-hmm. And again, the matriarch in a family is that leader, can be the leader, and that moves the family forward. So I think about how we hit on that with kinship, and thinking about just grandparents in general in some or most situations. Not necessarily most, but in some situations. But for me, in real life, as they would say, I think about leadership when it comes to a sporting event or athletics, because a lot of people know that a lot of who I am today came from the basketball court or various team activities. Mm-hmm. And then I think about leadership just in the work environment when you think about employee-employer type relationships. Right. Some people will hear me say a lot of times, if I'm just kidding around, I'll just say, especially if my mom's there or my dad's there, I'll say, well, I'm the boss. Well, keep in mind that leadership and being a boss are not the same things. There are plenty of bosses that are horrible leaders. And you'll never hear me speak of leadership when it comes to a friendship, because once you designate your friendship. I'm not saying be a leader amongst friends, but when you have a friendship, to me, you'll never hear me really speak of those types of things, leader of a pack, when it comes to a group of friends that are in a friendship with me. So I guess I'll start with just athletics. And you think about the leader being having a certain sort, and this is more so geared towards folks that are in team sports or have kids that are becoming of age of team sports, and you're just trying to figure out, is it for them? Is it not? Well, I will say it's debatable whether you can teach anything. And people say, can you teach a leader? Can you? I don't know. I don't know that. But I'd say if there's ever a way to see a leader just organically, I'd say throw your kid in a sport and you'll just kind of see how it works, because the true leader of a sport will take the team forward. What does that mean? If I am on a team with you, Danelle, and our strength is in shooting, we'll use basketball. Mm-hmm. We're good shooters, right? But we're horrible at defense, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when we're hanging out, we're going to practice defense. So you'll learn a lot about leadership organically with your kids being in a team sport. Number one, do they work on it outside of organized practice? Typical leaders in a team sport, they want to be the best. The best player is not always the leader, let me be clear. But the leader is the person who wants to be the best and wants you to be your best. Mm-hmm. And that's the differentiator between being the best player, being a good player, being the best in your sport, and being a leader. So if you say, hey, Tamara, I'm really struggling with defense. And I'm going to say, if I'm a leader, I'm going to say, hey, let me know when you're ready. I'll help you out on your defense all the time, anytime, because I can work on my shooting. So that's kind of how I think about it in leading a team. And I'm specific to a team as in a sport or athletic type environment. The way in which it kind of manifests in my life today is just with a job. You have leaders that are just finding their way. And to me, they're not leaders. They may have a title like SVP or something like that, but they're not really leaders. They're really managers. Yeah. If someone says to you, if you say your strong suit, and it's a strong suit and a strong trait that you have heard time and time again from multiple people and people that you trust and some people you don't trust, if you hear it time and time again, then it's probably true. But if you have a leader that doesn't see that, then your leader is probably a manager. And a lot of times we confuse vice president, senior vice president, director, manager. We confuse that, GM, general manager. Like, we can confuse those words with leadership. And really, a lot of those folks have just figured out how to be the best them they can be, right? But they've not figured out how to build the best team they can build, or how to make people grow in the space that they're in. So I think that leadership component, a lot of times we get it really, really confused. And I have been very fortunate to have several really, really good leaders. I think about like the leaders that automatically come to mind. I think of Carmela Malone. She was a SVP of staff legal, and she always took the time to actually hear my ideas, my thoughts. Mind you, I was a lowly managing attorney, but I didn't feel that way with her. And she told me one day, she said, look, I probably have a couple more stops on this runway, wherever I'm going to go. But she said, you have several. And at that point, I felt like I had several, but nothing really manifested to make me believe it. And she did that for me. Yeah. I think about Montre Williams, who has kind of gone throughout all various places within corporate America. And she never left the ideas and the steps and the how to and the know-how and she never left us out of the loop. And by us, a community of Black people that really were wanting more. And so I think of those folks. And then I think about the John Urankers of the world, a man who did not know me from he did not know me, and he had an opportunity because of someone else he knew. He trusted her assessment, and he hired me into a role that he had no idea whether I would do well in it. So I think of those leaders that can really spot it, if you will. And then I think of those really dynamic leaders like Michael, and how he just allowed you to really be, and he really, really, really wanted to learn. He wanted to learn about what made you uniquely you, even if you didn't want to tell him, right? And he wanted to get into more the nuance of who you were as a person. So I think of those types of dynamic leaders. But when I think of leaders and leadership and moving us forward, I think of a few things. I think of a leader that has a high degree of confidence, but an equal balance of humility.
Yeah, that's critical.
You have to be able to, like, I had this one leader that, I mean, this guy told me how much his house cost. I mean, it was just odd. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So you have to have confidence, but humility, and be able to read the room. Then I think of, you have to be competent, but also curious, right? Yeah. You have to know what you're doing, but curious to understand other avenues and other things about the role and about the person and about how do we get to point A to point B. And then I think about being open-minded as well as a forward thinker. Like I think of those types of traits. And, again, it's one thing to just be a leader. You can be a leader on your own island, a leader of your own decision, your own agency. But if you want to, the ship part is not how you move forward. It's how people around you move forward. That's the difference between leader, or just flat out leadership. And there was a period in time where I was an awful leader. And I learned it within my first role when I had my law office. I was an awful leader. I was trying to figure it out. I was thinking that because I led people that were my coworkers. They were my coworkers, and then I started leading them. So I started to think like, oh my gosh, they're jealous because they didn't get the job. Or I would think like, they're trying to second guess me. And then I thought about, wait a minute, don't take anything personal. So it took me about 4 months of being a bad leader for it to click like, okay, wait a minute. Michael Stewart said, I'm the best for this role. I know that I am. Let me be me.
Yeah.
And that's when it clicked to where I became a very good leader, and it showed. So yeah. I think leadership, I'm not saying that it's for everybody. I can't say that it's a badge of honor or anything like that, but it is really, really special to be able to see the fruits of real leadership.
You've said a lot there, and I agree with everything that you said. And I will say that I want to take it back to the paradigm of there's a leader versus leadership. Mm-hmm. And I have been identified as a leader for a very long time. Like, this is going back to a little bit of like, how do you teach leadership? Mm-hmm. There are some people who are just naturally leaders. I'll
just stop you there. It's funny because on one of my points I put coined as a natural leader.
Yeah,
but it was, for me, it was premature, but it ended up being right. But I don't know how they knew that.
Yeah, well, for some reason, like, I can give you an illustration. When I was in second grade, if my teacher needed to go to the bathroom, she would say, Danielle, here's a book, read it, and watch the class. Do I know why she chose me? I have no idea to this day. But something in me told her that I can trust her to do what I need her to do in my absence. I have always sort of been the person chosen to move something forward mm-hmm. or step up. And there have been times where I have been in rooms and I did not want to be the leader, mm-hmm. and it still happens to come to me. Yep. And so I don't really know what that is about. I don't know why that happens, but I do feel that sometimes there are people who are leaders. Just that's how they are. But that doesn't mean you're in leadership.
Correct.
And so I think for me, the distinguishing factor between just a leader and someone who is in leadership, and I've said this in other contexts like friendship versus friend and kinship versus kin, is the commitment to other people.
Yep.
And so when you are in leadership, you are committed to those people, which means you will make decisions that are in their best interest, in the best interest of the organization that you're leading. You will take it on yourself to set an example about how we are all going to operate in order to move these things forward. And so one of the times that I really had a chance to exercise that is obviously when I was interim president for a university. And so, you know, I had been a leader on that campus, obviously. Absolutely. I mean, general counsel, you know, secretary of the board, you're a leader. Right. But when you're in leadership, it was a much different experience. And I have come to understand through that leadership is a spirit. It is a contract between, it's like, for me, and this is how I am, it felt like a spiritual contract. Like I had been given a set of responsibilities that I absolutely could not take lightly. Like people were depending on me to help them navigate different experiences, to send a signal about which way the institution is going to go. And what I have seen is that people don't take that seriously as they should. Mm-hmm. I would find that when I was in leadership, that the words that I would say, like there was a phrase that I would often use, like, you know, our posture is this. Like someone would say, you know, how do we approach this situation? I would say, our posture is this. Correct. And then I noticed that over time, people were repeating the things that I would say. Right. I would hear other people say, yeah, our posture is this. So you don't understand how you imprint on that organization, on those people, and you cannot take it lightly. Okay. I believe that when you are, I want to use the word anointed is the way that I carried it. Well, if you are anointed as that leader and you don't do right by those people, you are going to be held accountable for that. And the reason why I'm stating this so strongly is because in today's time, we see very strong examples of people who have been anointed in leadership, anointed to lead, and they take people for granted. They abuse people and they do not treat people correctly. And I just feel like when you are in leadership, you have to care about people. Like if you do not care about people, do not lead them, because you will lead them to their own demise, and you will lead the organization to its demise. And you may benefit from it today, but in the long run, you will pay. And so all of the things that you cited, visionary, confidence, all of those things is what you need to be a leader. Mm-hmm. But what you have to absolutely have is compassion and care for the people that you are leading. Because if you don't, you are not in leadership, you are a leech.
Yeah, you're a leech. And I also think the word that comes to my mind, because again, I think the ship has to move people forward. The thing that comes to my mind, the biggest trait would have to be empathy. Yeah. I just know so many folks that lack empathy. And leading, it's very difficult. And I do think empathy can be learned. I do think, because it's just an intentionality to listen and pay attention. And that's all empathy is, really.
I think the empathy defined is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. So understanding that, you know.
Well, it's putting yourself in others' shoes and totally trying to understand it, because otherwise it's sympathy. Yeah. So like, you know, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, but then also going the extra mile of like doing something to help them be better. Correct. So like, it's one thing to know that, you know, Libby passed away. Mm-hmm. Empathy is like, okay, let me make sure that I don't
overburden Tamara during this time. Empathy is, it's one thing to know that, when in a leadership context, it's one thing to know that we had an ice storm and, business is going to be impacted. Empathy is, okay, so that means that our employees are going to be at home with their kids. So when I say remote work, maybe I need to be light on my expectations this week because of how people are juggling. So it is putting yourself in other people's shoes for the purpose of helping them to make their lives better. Right. That's how I see empathy. Yep. And so you have to come at it from that. You can only make decisions in the best interest of others if you put if you put their interest in your mind as you're making the decision.
Absolutely.
The other thing I want to say, and then we can move on, is just leading from where you are helps you get into leadership. So, you may not be VP or EVP or senior level or what have you, but you can be a leader where you are. Don't discount the things that you are doing right now. Don't think that, I'm just a, entry-level employee, because people will see the leader in you and they may call you to leadership. And so, just be mindful of that.
We'll move on to the next segment, but I remember Aunt McGovern told me this, and another leader that didn't know me, but listened to me and gave me some good nuggets. And he said, look, really, the role that I'm in, I never did it. But what I did do is I was really good at solving a whole bunch of little problems. And that's really how I progressed, because I solved a whole bunch of little problems. So to your point, just trying to put a story to it, or an idea to it, is do what you can in your space. And if that's solving a whole bunch of little problems, go ahead and do that. But remember, if you're a leader, you have a lot of responsibility. And if you want to make it a ship, you have to really take that on and figure out how to move others and take others with you. So,
yeah, I think this is a powerful conversation.
I like it. And I like it. We could have it almost every month and have something else to say.
Yeah. And if you're not ready to care about people, you're not ready for leadership. Period. Okay, we're going to move on to the We'll Be the Judge segment.
Unqualified opinions. Yes, I love this. Story of my life.
Yes. So this, she said she signed it 2 steps behind.
What?
Yeah. So, hey, Tamara and Danelle, I did something bold last week. I signed up for a step aerobics class at my gym. I thought, how hard could it be? It's just stepping. Ma'am, not only did I spend the whole class facing the wrong direction, but at one point I tripped over the step and I had to play it off like I meant to do it, which no one believed. My question is, at what point do you admit defeat and never go back? And when do you push through the embarrassment and show up again like it never happened? Signed 2 steps behind.
Oh my gosh. That's a hard question. Will you repeat the question again?
At what point do you admit defeat and never go back? And when do you push through the embarrassment and show up again like it never happened?
Yeah. To me, that's one of those things you'll kind of know it. I'm just not good at, I'm not good at abandoning a bad idea, depending on what it is. Like if it's something like 2-step, I'm going to get that 2-step. I am going to figure it out. Especially if I've already paid for it. Now, if it's month to month, totally different. If it's month to month after that first month, I'm probably going to be good. But if it's something that I've committed to financially, I'm going to commit to it. Like one of my things, I'm going to learn how to play the guitar. I'm not going to stop until I learn. Even if I determine like, okay, this isn't for me, I'm going to learn it. Like I just am. So I'm not good at abandoning learning something. I am good at abandoning a clear bad direction. Like if I'm riding with you and I have a hunch that we should be going left, but you're like, oh no, I know this way. I'm going to let you go right for a minute, but then I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to put this in my GPS. So I think that's kind of tricky. Yeah, I think you'll just know with that. So.
Okay. So I am trying to, it's crazy that you said this question because I have had this exact experience. So I'm a member of the YMCA, and with the YMCA, you have a monthly membership and you can go to any class. Like, you don't have to pay anything extra. So at the time, I was doing all kind of classes. I chose like hip hop aerobics. I chose Zumba. And so one of the days I was going to do the step aerobics. And okay, I want to give you the full picture. It was me and everyone else in there was a white woman. Now, typically, like, you know, if you gonna dance, like typically, like when I was in the hip hop class, it was a lot of different people, like black people, you know, all sorts of races. It was in the hip hop class and we were all getting it. But stereotypically, the white women were struggling a little bit in the hip hop class. Man, I felt like this was their revenge in the step aerobics class because they were getting it and I was getting exactly. That was the last day. That was my first and last day. I mean, they were twisting and
what was it that made it be your last day?
I have never felt more uncoordinated in my entire life. I felt so stupid.
You should have went home and practiced. You should have walked in there that next day.
I said, I'm never going back there, and I never did.
You should invite all of them to hip hop. That's good. So what do we say to two steps behind?
I'm just gonna say, girl, if you felt like me, I understand if you never go back. I'll give you permission never to go back because I didn't go back. I found other things. Me and Zumba, I would tear up Zumba. I would tear up hip hop aerobics. I mean, but that was not, step aerobics was not for me.
There you have it. If you paid for it and you cannot get a refund, it's like an exam. Like when you first start geometry, there's not an expectation that you know geometry. The point is you need to know it by the time for the exam. 2 steps behind, you need to know those steps in time for the exam. Those women, that was not their first day at step aerobics. It was your first day.
What exam is happening in step aerobics?
The point is the way you start is not the way that you will finish.
Child, but there are some things I just felt so embarrassed in there. I mean, it was so embarrassing. Like, I'm telling you, I empathize and sympathize with how you experience this because I felt so embarrassed. I was like, there's just no way. And to your point about, master it, then I'm like, how many more times do I have to be in here feeling like a fool before I decide, before I improve?
3. I'm saying that as an expert.
An expert what?
I just feel it in my spirit.
You were expert step aerobics, sir?
No, I just feel it in my spirit. You heard me.
No, well, I mean, you should try it. But I'm telling you right now,
I don't have a.
I felt so dumb. They were like, they were all coordinated, and I was like,
I tell you, marching.
I was just fumbling around. It was awful.
But let us know. Hey, 2 steps behind. Do let us know. But now it's time for Against My Better Judgment. Yes. Danielle.
Yes, I alluded to this earlier, so I'm not going to give you details, but I
need details, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm on the board of this entity.
Okay.
And I was asked to join it in 2021, and shortly after joining, this has so many connections because shortly after joining the board, like just a few months after joining, they decided that they wanted to make me chair.
Okay.
So I was chair and I have been chair since. Mm-hmm. I've been chair for now 4 years. I actually looked back at some of the meeting minutes, and this project, we've been working on it for so long. Like we are trying to build a mixed use development.
Okay.
And we have just not made progress. We just haven't made progress. And
wait, have we gotten to the what's against my better judgment part of this? Do you want to state that first and then walk us into it, or do you want to?
No, I don't.
Want to walk us into
I want to walk you into it.
All right.
And so I'm not going to tell you exactly why we haven't made progress, but I know why we haven't made progress.
Okay.
And because of that, my investment in it has just been waning over time. And so against my better judgment, I haven't yet resigned from being chair, and I really should, because I really feel like they need someone who is as motivated to keep pushing for the project to move forward. And now that I'm in school, especially, like, I just don't have the time. And I was listening to Iyanla Van Zant. She has a new book out about spiritual hygiene, and she said something to me. She didn't say it directly to me, but she said something on I think she was on Oprah's podcast. And she said something that she said, you have to have a sacred no and a holy yes. In that you need to, when you say no, it needs to be protecting you, protecting your energy, protecting your time, so that you can devote it to the holy yeses, which are in furtherance of your passion, in furtherance of your mission. But sometimes I do feel bad about saying no, and I have to really unpack why that is. I think it comes from just a place of not wanting to disappoint people. Yeah. But when I get to the point where I'm betraying myself by not saying no, and then because of that, I'm also sabotaging the entity that I'm supposed to be supporting, then I really need to, like, let it go and give it to someone who now has the passion that I had when I first started. And so anyway, I finally, against my better judgment, I hadn't yet resigned as chair. I still want to be working on the project because I still have committed to doing some of the things to support it. But at this last meeting that we had, I told them, like, I can't be chair anymore. And so I felt good about, giving that sacred no on behalf of myself and my time and what I really know I can contribute, and on behalf of what I know that they can continue to do, and that I'll be happy to cheer on from a seat on the board still, but that I can't chair it. Because I was trifling. Like, I would be like, hey y'all, it'll be the meeting is Friday at 2:00 and it's noon, and I'm like, I'm just gonna cancel the meeting. Like, like at a certain point, I'm not doing the organization a service, so I need to bow out. So that's my better judgment story.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is, with that, you did not have the sacred no and the holy yes, in that you just waited too long.
I waited too long. And I've known, like, when I first started school, I knew then that my time was, and it wasn't just school. To be clear, but it was just the season of me serving in this capacity is over, and school just kind of helped illuminate that. And so I should have called and made that decision pretty early on, much sooner than I actually did. Okay. But I felt good once I just let it be known on Friday that we need to take steps to, find a different chair. But, don't hang on longer than you should. Like, when you have to say no, don't feel bad about saying no. Like, there's a reason why your spirit, your judgment is saying, I can't give my time in this way, and commit yourself to a holy yes. Like, only say yes to things that are in furtherance of your vision, are in furtherance of what your mission is, are in furtherance of your passion, because that's really the only way that you're going to show up authentically and give your best effort is when it's something that you are passionate about.
Agree.
You don't want to half do and half commit, because that what'd you say about your word?
Oh, your word. You have to have impeccable with your word.
Be impeccable with your word. And you can't be impeccable with your word if it doesn't come from a place of passion and purpose and that sort of thing.
And I think the book was the 4 agreements.
Yep, the 4 agreements.
The 4 agreements. So I don't want to own that, but absolutely. So what's your takeaway for today? I heard part of it just then, but.
Well, I think, again, when you have leadership, you have to be committed to people. And I think that goes from actually committing, when you make the decision to commit, that it is from a good place. It's a sacred yes, or a holy yes, and then take it seriously in, ensuring that you are committed to the betterment of everybody, and that's not selfish.
Yeah. I like it. I think understanding leaders can just be titles. But if you want to turn it into leadership, again, it's that commitment to something outside of you. And the empathy piece. I even think that there was some empathy in your against my better judgment in recognizing, like, wait a minute, is this really what the board needs right now in making such a decision? Because chairman or chairwoman, that definitely has a leader. You're definitely a leader, but the leadership piece kind of dwindled a little bit. It waned, just because of your capacity. So great, another good conversation. Thanks, Danelle.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. And if you want us to weigh in on whether or not you can keep up in step aerobics, please send us a email at againstmybetterjudgmentpod@gmail.com or on Facebook or Instagram at againstmybetterjudgmentpod.
Yeah, and don't forget to like us, rate us. We're looking for 5 stars. And otherwise, thanks for spending the day with us. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.